Folks, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show. And, I think it's important as we move through this life and this time to always receive enlightenment and encouragement from those who have been accessing the spirit mind for decade after decade. And what I mean by that is getting out of the logical mind and the linear thinking process and being able to expand into the extraterrestrial, connect with spirit, connect with past lives, connect with different types of beings and mediums, and really owning that and making that a part of your entire existence in writing, in poetry, in music, in relationships, and you will be taking a different route, and you'll be taking a different path, but it's the path that all the really amazing people in our world have stood out, people that have taken the insecure path, found their own individual voice, been unconcerned about their reputations or monetary success or commodities. Most importantly, their job is to teach and to heal and to make sure that people continue to be themselves. And I get a chance today to reconvene with a spiritual teacher of mine and a guy who just through kind of osmosis has given me a lot of charisma and essence and life force to continue down this path. That can feel very heavy sometimes, but when you break through, it feels good because you know you are on the right path. Bapuji Tisziji Munoz, welcome back to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Thank you. Great to be back, and hopefully of use to somebody out there who's able to resonate with whatever is said in this particular interview.
Absolutely, man. I'm curious as to if you could just talk a little bit about impermanence in life, and you said something to me the other day on the phone about a farewell concert.
Yes.
And I just, to me, the word farewell and Tisziji, those two words don't really go together. And I wanted you to talk a little bit about, what you are changing into, where are you going, and why, and.
Well, what I'm continuing to do, but in a different location. That's the farewell relative to the situation up here in the New York City area. In this case, we're talking about New York State. I'm a New Yorker by birth, and so I've spent a lot of time here, and I've loved being here. But I've gone to other places, not to be elsewhere necessarily, but to be able to carry the message Spirit has given me, and that I play from, to other beings in different locations relative to the country, and relative to the planet, and perhaps relative to the universe. So the message is the same. Walking a few steps or driving a couple of 100 miles down the road is to continue the message and spreading it and expanding the message to those who may not have access to this message in the way that I play, or the way that I teach, or the way that I am.
The idea that, we go through this life and, we deal with so many different challenges, and, can you just talk about the way that you continue, Tisziji, there are so many younger cats that because of the pandemic, the one like industry that stopped was live domestic touring as a musician. Like that just stopped. And in this day and age, the only way, as a younger musician, that you can really make a living is by touring. And so what happens is a lot of younger cats, because they're insecure, they try to scheme or they try to do anything they can to scratch and claw in order to find gigs, create things that aren't really there. The point is that they are, struggling for survival. And you've not been somebody who's ever, your intentions for playing music are your own, and they're for healing, and they're for spirit and guidance and wisdom. They're not based on necessarily making a living. And I just wanted to know, I wanted you to just talk about your advice to younger cats who, rightfully so, are really worried if they're ever going to be able to sing for their supper again after this extended pause.
Of course. This is now a time of renewal and regeneration. If you can see it as such, right? The pause is part of the process. Every night we sleep, we take a huge sort of interdimensional, inter-universal pause, and then come back to this place, the relative time world, and then do our song and dance up here. But this is not the beginning or ending of the song and dance. Remember, we're all ancestors and part of an ancestral line. So we, depending on our relationship to our ancestors, we can tap in to what they really have to offer us by remembering the stories of the ancestors or knowing their history and feeling that that's part of your continuum. I come from an ancestry that is musical and African, Puerto Rican, and Spanish, and European. And so there's a lot there for me to tap into just by thought, by feeling, knowing connectedness. You access the energy, the spirits of your ancestors, and certainly whatever relatives you have who are still alive, parents, siblings, cousins, whoever it is. This is your family of power, originally. When that's not the case, then you have to turn to your family of friends and influences, and for musicians, that means the music world, in some way or other, depending on where the individual is on the evolutionary scale of being, let's say, a beginner, a student, or ultimately a master of what it is. And then the wheel is reversed. As master, they come to you. People need you, right? Because you put out so much in your givingness that the people have to turn to you. They just can't help but recognize what it is you're doing. So then it's important for us to continue learning, continue reading, and be living in such a way that enables us to not only develop our physical and emotional and karmic, that means our conditional purpose out here as a human being who plays music, but go deeper. Be willing to discomfort yourself in the spirit of transformation and purification. As I say, let the burn do what the burn does.
Burn.
Let the burn do what it does, and by that I mean the fire of the heart that clears the way for you if you would just feed it, recognize it, and feed it.
Bapuji, I was going to ask you, what if, like, your dad was in the Marine? It was in the submarine.
Maybe, yeah, he was a submarine.
He was in. He wasn't present for your birth. I think you
Right.
saw a lot of violence as a child. You weren't necessarily connected in a loving way to your familial people. You didn't feel a lot of security there, and so can you just talk? Can you talk about when it really? And I was going to ask you about people that were.
Let me,
Go ahead.
That's a good point, because right now I'm going to bring up the fact that I didn't have a certain kind of security, but I had musical security.
That's what I mean.
Everybody in the family, whether they were alcoholics, which they were, or not drinking, which they were. My grandfather made his own whiskey. He had to make his own stuff. And so he had something there all the time for the people to feel good over. And of course, you have to be in low spirits in order to be drinking whiskey to feel good. But that's basically what was happening. I also had an uncle who was growing pot in the basement, so we had the benefit of fresh homemade whiskey and homemade pot for those who needed that.
Oh my gosh.
But the more important thing was the music and the love of the Hispanic African music, the dance music. Whether the people were happy or not, they needed to dance. My mother needed to dance. She needed me to dance with her. So it was a dance culture to a certain degree. Violent, no doubt. Drinking, yes. That comes with the territory. But not hating. It was a forgiving situation. It was a forgiving family. So then there were the Christian roots that enabled people to beat each other up and love each other, wipe the blood off their face, and Johnny, I love you, and so on. So to make up, and this is an important thing because we're out here not knowing that we can be gaining spiritual wealth and grace by forgiveness, forgiving people, allowing people to be wrong, if you want to call it that, or be right, and say, no, you got to go your way. You got to do what you got to do. Eventually, things change. Not everybody's going to stay on the same path the same way forever because that's not the universe. The universe has changed. Some people can be fixed. They could be locked. They could be stuck. But maybe with your forgiveness, with the kindness that you can show certain people, they start to think outside of the box. So then we're talking about a outreach to others is very important. Sometimes music doesn't do it. So the musician then, as a healer or a teacher or whatever, a leader, can do that. So we have more power and more responsibility as musicians than we care to know about often if we're enclosed in our cocoon, in our box, and just thinking about ourselves and our personal ambitions and our career. When we have a lot of people out here who are hurting, who don't have nearly as much, let's say, creativity or blessings. To be able to play music is a blessing. And so we have to properly take stock with the goodness we have earned by whatever way, by blood or by karma or by our own efforts at school, and then start sharing more, opening more, and become a certain kind of ambassador of goodness. We can do that, but do we have the courage to do that?
Absolutely. I mean, this is just so beautiful to hear this, and this is going to go out to legions of people, and hopefully it'll have an effect on even several cats. And I wanted to ask you. You were brought up in a very interesting environment because rhythm is love, and also dance is very healing. And then you mentioned Christianity. Now, I wanted you to talk about, they teach you in the Bible, thou shalt not kill. And then at 18 years old, you enlist in the army, and they strap a gun on you, and they send you off to some other land. And and so, Mike, this is what, CJ, I want you to talk about how not that you were brought up with dogma, but many people in monotheistic religion are shrouded in dogma and groupthink. How can these, if they are sentient beings and ambassadors of goodwill, break from dogma?
Well, we're really talking about where the individual is on the rung of life, where they have a mark for where they are spiritually. What is the mark for the person who's an adolescent? Where are they spiritually? Most people don't think about these things or care about it. I was raised in the company of spiritualists, heavy-duty spiritualists, ghost chasers. Ghost chasers.
Yeah.
Are people who would pursue the dead and liberate the dead and liberate the living from the darkness of bad spirits and so on and so forth. That's a Christian practice. That's probably a practice that is in all the religions at an esoteric level, because all the spiritual people want to do the same thing, and that is free their own people from dark spirits, darkness, negativity, and so on and so forth. So in this case, for me, I had the fortune of the karma of having a circle, a group of friends who are also musicians, who are also drummers, and we would get together and we would play, but we would also chant it and pray for our families, for ourselves. And after we would do that, we felt beautiful. We felt great. That's a shamanistic practice, no doubt, but it's for all musicians to do because anybody can play the drums if you try. So that's available to children. It's available to everybody to tap on the drum. Just tap your way to paradise if you can do that.
Absolutely. No, but I mean, like okay, so somebody who is still like, oh, I don't have any, I can't play the drums, even though we all have natural rhythm.
Yes. Then we can learn. We can submit to someone who can play the drums and see how easy it is to awaken ourselves to our native rhythm. You just need to be exposed to it. It will come.
And I'm also talking. Maybe you can personalize it, but not that you were dissuaded from taking the path that you knew that was the right path. But
right.
This idea of saying what we've been gifted with as a being for people to say, okay, I'm going to take this path that I feel that is my true nature, as opposed to what society says is success. Again, I remind people that that it's.
Listen, I must say this. We, for the moment, will say there are two worlds. One is this is just part of the instruction right now, or the revelation, or the let's say the concept I'm working with. There's the material world and all that is, all the greatness that is, and never to forget the spiritual world, which is coincident in the source of our life, our livingness. So we need to bring into our world the openness to what is called spiritual guidance. We have to do that. Otherwise, we go through life depending on people who may not have any guidance, following people, following trends, following the public, following certain leaders, following authorities, following politicians, following ignoramuses who are not interested in your spirituality or your spiritual guidance or your spiritual unfoldment. This is important. So this is what we need to tend to. Now, I was in the military, and I loved military service.
Mm-hmm.
Because it wasn't about killing as such, although, I carried a gun when I was there. Rifles and all of that. I did the military thing, and all that it entails and includes. But strangely, it was when I was in the military that I started to have visions of the gurus. And I was saying, wait a minute, I'm in the military. I'm in the combat arms here.
Right.
What's with the spiritual visions?
Wow.
And so then I started to figure out, well, what made sense was I was under a lot of pressure, and I was looking inside, and I accessed my own spirituality under the pressures of the military circumstance. I've also heard stories of people on the field of combat awakening to their own spirituality. And so it can happen anywhere, anytime. Whatever the God is, it's with you all the time, because it created you as a co-creator of what the God is, which is creativity, unfoldment, manifestation, reproduction, right? Universal continuity. We are part of that. And so we need to know that. I'm not saying people need to know. I don't want to make that seem like, well, you got to do this. No, be open to your spirituality, your spiritual inheritance. Find out from your friends or people around you who are the spiritual people. I don't mean necessarily religious people.
Mm-hmm.
The spiritual people I knew, my family were more native people, and they weren't about the church as such, because the heart is the church.
That's right.
The heart is the original church.
Is church? Wait, hold on. I want to ask you a question.
Yes.
Is church on the bandstand? Is that
Yes.
yes?
That is the church for the musicians. That is where we do service, right? And the people who come to us, we should administer to them, not just share our ego best, but our heart's best, and treat them like they need to be treated as people who are in the world, and not always having a good time in the world.
That's right.
Right. And so when I'm doing my gigs, I walk through the club or whatever, and see who I can feel and touch in a certain way, right? And give a kind word to, right? And look at them and be with them, because I know the music reaches them, but they're not. It's not the same as me talking to them directly and personally, because this is what the music should be about: intimacy, honesty, sincerity, and truth. Shouldn't just be the latest licks, the greatest piece of let's say composition, and then everybody's just tripping on that and then going their ways, and nobody's making contact with anybody except for people who are considered to be your fans, right? So you boost each other's sort of optimism and positive energy up by being together under the circumstances of that potential. What about the rest of the people? Who knows who in that group needs help? Who knows, unless we feel that and look for it, who knows who needs more than just a priest, like spiritual kindness? Who needs guidance? And by that we can say just kind talk. Say, how are you doing? Ma'am, how are you today? How are you tonight? How's the music? And say, you enjoy the music? Good. Did you get something from the music? Right? Was it healing for you? How was it? They care about the music, care about the people. So I'm not saying anybody has to do this, because most people say, the guy's a wacko. What are you talking about? We don't have time to be caring for the people, right? We're not medical people. Well, you're working on the hearts and the brains of these people. Think about it. You're affecting these people and changing their lives forever.
Absolutely. I just what I'm hearing also early on is that if people are in certain situations and they're getting spiritual transmissions, but they think it's like for instance in the army, when you could have said, why am I getting these visions of the spirits and the gods, and you could have suppressed that and buried it and said, this is not the right time or place or venue. But the point is, there is no right time or place or venue. So
exactly. Well, then that's the time. You see, there is a right, when it shows up is the right time.
And people should lean into that, even if it's in the most random place.
Yeah. Let me say something that my Aunt Gracie used to tell me. She would say, "Mijo, son, it's when they give it to you. Listen for them. Listen to the spirits. When they give it to you, you take it." Now, I used to talk to my Aunt Gracie about writing, and she wasn't too sure about that, but then she got together with other mediums, and they said, this child here is going to be writing the books for the Chinese monks. I had no idea what she was talking about, and later on I realized it was the Tibetan people, Tibetan Buddhists.
Right.
So my books are part of that strain of intelligence and philosophic persuasion. That means we're talking about enlightenment. I didn't know that then. Nobody else knew it then, but the mediums did. See, so the mediums are mediums because they're open to the impossible. They're open to what isn't happening. They're open to the infinite or the whisperings of the spirit. We also can be open to the whisperings of spirit because we have ears, we have intelligence, we have hearts. We're here. And, what can we do that's better than being here, receptive to spirits, good spirits, right? The good spirits, not the bad spirits, because those people have more fun with the bad spirits, but the good spirits that slow us down a little bit and make us more contemplative and more gracious, more compassionate, more caring.
Talking to Tisziji Munoz here. So great to hear him and his knowledge and his words and his offerings. I've been really kind of on this trip lately related to John McLaughlin. When he came to the United States, he was really having a hard time because New York, the tempo of the city was...
Tisziji Munoz, disciple, I think.
That's right. No, so he was searching for spirit, and he was looking around to try to find some contemplation and peace in a very hectic environment
Right.
because New York was a very hustle bustle place,
Yep.
and he wound up going to a lot of Sufi gatherings and
Sufi?
yes,
Sufi?
Sufism, yep,
Yeah,
and
Sufi.
and
Beautiful.
one of the
Beautiful.
cats that was there was Paul Moshin, and
Okay.
I just wanted to know, Tisziji, your interactions, because all we hear about in Islam is the fundamentalist, very doctrinaire, repressive type of Islam. We don't hear a lot about Sufism. I feel in my own way that I allow myself to dance. I let my eyeballs dance.
Oh, yes.
I want you to talk about that, how
Yeah,
you've integrated.
This is about dancing. This is about dancing then. This is about music and dancing.
Yeah.
In some places they'll call it a Sufi, in other places they'll call it different things.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all religion. It's all about the expression of one's connection with one's divinity. So we can say it's Islam. For somebody to be Islamic, if his type of let's say, self would be maybe more militant, but then there could be people who are responding to, let's say, some of the great prophets of Islam, the great poets of Islam. And then we're talking about poetry and song, singing and dancing. And that is also Islam. But it's not the militant level of Islam. And the same with the Christians. It's the same with all the religions. It's not so much the core of the teaching as much as who is practicing what it is and how they're practicing what it is. Because we coordinate our reality with the religion of, let's say, our culture. Ordinarily, we're raised in a religious environment to a certain degree, which is a first step. It's not the end of it. It's not the fullness of it. And I think as John, I think, said in the Gospels, he said, if everything Jesus did, I'm going to assume that was good, were written down, there would be so many books, they would fill up the earth.
Mm.
So, and when we're talking about Christianity, at that point, we're talking about a person. Well, what he did, which became that. And so his example then made other people feel that they were Christians, but there was one Christ, and the rest of the people were versions, not only of what they learned from Jesus, but they were versions of their own God nature that they may not have followed through because they were following this one line, the Christian line, as well as they could, but they could have had Islamic tendencies, they could have Buddhist tendencies, they could have had any number of other religious Zen tendencies, not to forget Zen. Right?
Never.
And the nature of Zen as a philosophy that brings bliss through working with paradox. You don't know. You are what you're not being.
That's the Socratic method. You must know what you don't know.
Right.
Let it, and then that's what you do with the music. You let it come through you. You have to open yourself up to be that channel. But this is important to see your value.
Yes.
In our time now, it's more significant than ever before because you made a really interesting point about being on the bandstand and having the conversation, the heart, love, fire, love conversation, but juxtapose that to somebody who's up there, riffology, look at me, to the fans, right? It's very much a cult.
Selfishness.
Yes. Okay. So now we have
ego building, selfishness, which is not bad, but it's not all there is.
How do you break a cult of selfish personality when narcissism is taken over without preaching to those people? How can you affect consciousness change with those? Because we are living through a cult.
Well, yes, I hear you.
Yeah.
And the way to do it is to be free enough to listen, to just be love. Just be love.
Yeah.
And when I play, I'm playing as just being love. So every note that comes through, even if people say it's like undeveloped, unintellectual, whatever, it may be all of those things, people, but it's coming from my heart. Feel it. It's true. That's where it's coming from. Right, the inner being, right, the soul being. Let's call it the soul being, the pure being, not wanting, not wheeling and dealing, not negative or positive, but just being, like the purity of the sound relative to the heart, which means it is touching love and peace. And there it goes. It goes out on the sound waves to the people in various forms with different melodies, different titles, but it's the same flavor of heart presence and heart touching, because that's what we need here for the healing. Right? We need people to feel that, and then they are restored to a certain level of confidence and sacredness relative to the musical, society, and maybe even the jazz society. I don't consider what I play to be purely jazz.
No.
I played the jazz when I was in the Army band, and so I did my training in the Army band. Great place to train, but that was a training ground. That's where you learn to prove you could play and read the music and play properly, and for me, pay tribute to the great American music, because that's what the Army band played. It's like all the various genres of music that we call American music. And then as an individual, I became more yogic, and then going more inside from the social, I went to the individual, and then I went beyond the individual to the spiritual. And that's the evolution for everybody. When you see it, it's coming.
Yeah, no, it's profound. Did you actually get out of heavy artillery and got a spot in the Army band? How did that work?
Well, I wasn't in heavy artillery. I was actually a communications chief, and so I was into intelligence work. Let's call it intelligence work. And communication.
Yeah.
I was able to work testing Zenith radios, let's say. How did I test them? I tested them under what is called mocked up combat circumstances. So I had to jump, I had to parachute with the radios. I had to go into water with the radios. I could jump and land in a river, let's say, but I had to survive and put the radio through the test in order to make it have it approved for combat service. And it was the same with living on ice, living in the cold, on Birch's Garden. That was where Hitler had his main compound in Germany. Living in snow, living on the ice, not quite in the Arctic, but testing the radio's ability to withstand the elements. So from there,
You're telling me that you could have gotten electrocuted by falling into the water.
That's true.
Maybe you did get. So you were a reconnaissance intelligence cat.
Yeah, right. And we work mainly through Morse code, and so I don't have anything else to add to it.
Mm-hmm.
Making a long story short, I was walking down the street in Fayetteville. I was in both airborne divisions, by the way, the 82nd Airborne All-American Airborne Division. I was in the 101st Airborne Division, All-American. I spent a little bit of time on TDY with the Special Forces Winter Warfare School. Beyond that, I was walking down the street in Fayetteville with my guitar, which my mother gave me, and she said, always carry your guitar.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have somebody you can trust with you all the time. And then I ran into another troop coming. Well, we walked into each other, so to speak, walking towards each other. And he said to me, I'll bet you don't have a machine gun in that case. And I told him, I don't. And he says, I have a trailer over here. Would you like to come and sit with me so we can hear what we're doing? I said, sure, well, no problem. But it wasn't far from where we were. And then I took my guitar out. I can't say I was a player or anything like that, but I was familiar with it. I plucked a few strings out, and he's looking at me. And he took his guitar and he played a little bit, and he's just looking at me. And he says, would you like to be in the Army band? And I had no experience, no anything. And I didn't answer him because I didn't believe what he was saying that it had anything to do with me. And then he asked 2 other times, and then he said, and I said, why are you asking me that? Please, why are you asking me that? He says, I'm the commander of the 440th U.S. Army Band. And he said, I know you're a baby on the guitar. He said, but you got some feeling. He said, you have better feeling than I do. This was his word. And he said, would you like to be in the band? I said, I'd love to be in the Army. That would be like incredible. It'd be like heavenly, miraculous. And he says, well, listen, I'm going to tell you who to report to. You report to Master Sergeant Tyson at the 440th U.S. Army Band. You tell him that you audition for me, and I'll talk to him. And then you go in there, and we're going to process you. If we can, I have to be transferred from my unit. And so there you have it. And you talk about heaven. I was never happier or ecstatic in my life than to be there amongst people who were singing Love Supreme. Right, all kinds of beautiful sort of, I guess you might say, echoes of the spiritual times in the 60s.
Absolutely,
right?
absolutely.
And so, I was gifted with that. And I think being a good spirit helped me to get there, because I would never have imagined I would ever qualify for the 440th Army Band. And yet I did by playing just a few notes. I got in, and I started playing, and he said there was a deal. But I had to teach myself how to read the guitar music and learn how to play for the stage band. And they had recommended books for me. And I said, no problem, man. No problem. I'll do whatever I have to do to be there. And I did.
Yeah, I did. No, I was just going to ask you about, like, you developed, I mean, you read through a couple of books, but then basically, I mean, the guitar at that time was still considered a rhythm instrument. It wasn't like you weren't like soloing all over the place. So I mean, like
only rhythm.
Only rhythm.
My job was only rhythm. If I played a few notes on my own, fine. If I could get away with that, but it was only rhythm. When I was home, like living off base, then I, of course, because I have melody in me as a singer, I would pick melodies out, and I started to get a feeling for the guitar as my voice. The rest is history. I still haven't learned how to play it, thank heavens.
Well, I mean, it's better to not know.
Exactly.
When you approach a gig like the one coming up in Marlboro, with the guys you've been playing with for so long, do you even? I mean, you have a huge bag of original music, but do you generally how do you let the rhythms guys just start, and then do you really have a set list at all, or is it just
No. Well, listen, it depends on what the feelings are and what the situation is in the world. I relate to what's going on, and how I feel, and what's going on at the club. We usually get there before the band hits, and I feel it out. I feel the people out, see what's going on, and that helps to shape it. So on occasions, I'll have a list of tunes that I really want or need to play because of the times. Also, certain
Absolutely.
melodies that are part of what I have to offer. Different melodies, but the melodies that are part of my practice that reach into the people and heal the people, or which often happens, and we've done this a number of times at the Balkan. We just start playing and play a whole set without any talk about music.
Wow.
And then it becomes this kaleidoscopic sort of wonderful sort of creative monster of sorts. Because I love the drums, and so I like the percussion. The liberation of all the players, not chaos, but the liberation of all the players to interweave with one another in a loving way. Not playing against each other or life, not playing against society. Just bring the heart out if you can. So I like having specific players who I know can respond to 2 or 3 notes I play up front without talking, and they're in it. They're gone. We're all gone.
Gone. I mean, no, and what you're talking about is the universal communication, man. I mean, it's
you know it.
Oh, man, I'm telling you, man, I think this gig is going to be very emotional and very powerful, and I just, to me, I mean, just for the record, the first time Tisziji was met Miles Davis, they backed into each other and then turned around and looked at each other and so didn't really say anything. The fists went up. The fists went up, but then there was no contact. But like Miles, and at certain points, he would just he would come out, maybe play like 3 notes, and then let the band just scurry around and create.
That's the best thing.
So you do that, and you like to do. Like there are tunes where you're just going to play, you'll just hint at something.
Not even a tune. It's just
Right.
a fragment,
Right.
like a note, just a note at the right time, in the right way, let's say, or playing a note. Play a note with one note percussively, and then the bass gets turned on, the drums get turned on, and whoever else is playing, the keyboards come in, horn, whatever. They find their role immediately. And that's the beauty of music. So we don't have to be playing tunes. We don't have to have a classical approach all the time. The people don't need that. They need wonderful creativity. That's what they need to
Absolutely.
be refreshed instead of being put to sleep by having to hear another version of the same old. And then give you, very good, thank you, that was done very well. Now, where's my hamburger?
or they're trained to clap, even if they don't like the tune, at the end of it they're supposed to clap or something. It's like
Yes.
it's like it's a dog and pony thing. I mean, to me, like, Tisziji, my only wish is that that you don't. I feel like I've been to your place in Wallkill a lot, and it's actually been like a place of discarga for me in my own way, and
Right.
put me on my path towards breaking open the skull and being healed, and so many things, like just through direct connection, nothing specific. And I just don't want you to disappear, man. I don't want you to go back. I don't want you to go down to Norfolk or Virginia and just.
Whatever. I did make a commitment to write 2 books that I think the world should hear about.
Do you want to talk? Do you want to tease them a little bit or no?
Well, I'll just say.
Yeah.
I wanted to write these books before I passed. One was for the artists, where I'm spilling the beans relative to art in a certain way, which I call The Heart of True Genius. Boom, it's done. It's out there. It's on Kindle. And the next one was, in a comparable way, write something spilling the beans relative to the spiritual, say, tradition of monks who are also players. And so I created this idea, and I've written a lot on it, because we have the Buddha, right, for the Buddhists, the eyes and the brain, right? And then I said, well, I'm creating the Huda. If he could be the Buddha and they're not playing music, then we want the Huda to be the one who is the Buddha of sound. So I've written this book called The First Guitar Mappa, the Great Guitar Sutra of the Huda Dharma by Tisziji Munoz.
Unbelievable.
And it's like poetry. I'll read you a smidgen.
Please. Hold on. This is for spilling the beans on players or for the spirit?
This is about spiritual people, the spiritual, but those who are moved to play.
Yeah.
So we're talking about the spiritual musicians, those who aspire to become yogis or masters in the spiritual sense.
Shoo.
Being free of all objects and subjectivity means transcending into and beyond no thought. If true form is no body, the true body is utterly gone. Thoughts are never thoughts. Musical ideas are thoughts, as thoughts are in no way musical ideas or thoughts of anything musical. True no thought is also no thought. If sound is no sound, the higher music of the no sound leads to sacred shabd recognition. From and within the shabd, there is no solidity, no gravity, and no prison of suffering. No one. No erroneous views, no errors of judgments, no mistakes, no problems. Therefore, no karma. Not a single being to suffer or not suffer. In the shabd, that means sacred sound, there is the radiance of nothing and the heavenly domain of nothingness, light sublime. Just for you.
I just don't know if I even want to continue after this.
Well, listen, Jake, we love you.
Hey, man.
That we know.
Honestly, you've helped me so. Honestly, Tisziji, like, your work is so far beyond. I mean, it just sort of dawned on. I mean, I hate to say that, but it's crystallized recently that I've gone so far down the spirit path, and so far down the path of instinct and intuition, and so leaving the logical mind that. And it was so weighty for so long. Since I've seen you, just heavy gravitational pull or pushing down. And only recently has there been this sort of, I don't know what the right word is, but it's because of your teachings, man. I've broken through it, and now that weight comes, but I can see light. I can see real light. I've left the casket. You woke me up. Get out of the casket.
Yes. So now you teach it. You share it with the people, and they will get it, right? Because it's reaching their true nature.
That's right.
The hue nature. The hue nature. I should use the word. It's like hue, which means gone. Hue is the last breath, and the first breath. First and last breath is hue. That means gone, gone to gone. See? In the Tibetan, they say gati para sangati para ilga gone.
One person who keeps flashing into my head, and we've lost him since the last time we've connected, is McCoy Tyner. And can you talk about what, if anything, from those Coltrane peeps, the Rashid Alis, the Elvins?
Yeah.
They were playing through time. They were playing through changes. They were floating in the time. You float in your music, even though when you plug in, you're operating on a frequency. But what did you?
Well, I played with McCoy.
I know. No, I remember the pictures. I remember the pictures.
No. It was something which had to be experienced to be realized, because you can hear him and be sent for
totally.
But playing was something else. Okay, and he told me not to play certain things, and I played those things despite his telling me not to play them. Like tunes, I told him I'd like to play this tune. He said, "No, we're not going to play that tune." And then I'd start to play the tune, and the bass player and the drummer would play the tune. Oh. McCoy would come in, and he'd give me. Some people said they never saw as much of his teeth as they did.
He was gritting. He was gritting. He was gritting his teeth, man.
Well, I don't know if he was gritting, but he was definitely grinning, because I had the chutzpah to call the I made it a trio, and when it was supposed to be a quartet.
So he was actually. There is a feeling of he was actually kind of enjoying it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He said no, he didn't want to do it, but we did it, and it was great.
I know that feeling, man. It's about pushing people out of their comfort zone, but then also they realize that you don't have an agenda other than to inspire. And
this is the thing. You see, It wasn't that I wanted to play against McCoy. But I felt when the people saw me there, because it was up in my area at the time, up in Schenectady area, the people knew me there. And, I was close to Nick Brignola as well. He wasn't there, but some of his people were there. So they expected me to take the music out because they know the way that I'm playing. And so when we got together with McCoy, we did play more out stuff. But he was very, very open and yielding. And then he asked me to come down to New York, and then I sat in with him in New York at one of the clubs down there, and it was great. He said, Tisziji, you have your own sound, right? And he says, you could have the world eating out of your hands if you chose to do that. And I said, I don't choose to do that. In other words, I didn't want to play music just to play music, for anything. Or just, self-indulgence.
Yeah, it's so funny, man. So cool, because I have musicians come up to me and say, they're like, man, you should be so much bigger than you are. And it's like, I'm doing exactly what my true nature says. Like, if I get in contact with you and can inspire you as an audience member, as a broadcaster, as a father, whatever it is, like, that's my job. It's not about being bigger or appealing to fame, I feel like this is such a spiritual path, and I'm sort of just beginning it, and I feel so humbled to be able to do that and to know somebody like yourself who has walked that path. I assume though, when he invited you down for his gig, you didn't play tunes he didn't want to play.
No, I just jumped in on what they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
I was happy to be there and honor him. And, I played a set and then got off and just left there, left and told him I loved him. And when he left the gig that we did up in the Albany area, was connected area, Troy, the Troy Saving Bank, I cried like a baby seeing him go. Because when we played, he played everything so perfectly. I mean, as far as accompaniment went. I mean, I would hear what's going on, and he'd play that.
Oh.
He was that in tune, man. And so, I'd play my solo, and then I'd give it to him, and then it was like, it was gone. I mean, it was,
Are there any? By the way, is there?
I just want to say that
Yeah,
it was the Holy Ghost.
Yeah.
It was the Holy Ghost. That was a feeling that the band was possessed of the Holy Ghost.
Oh my God.
Go ahead.
I was wondering if there were any recordings circulating of those shows. I know that.
We've looked, because I told McCoy we would love to record them, because my son was an engineer, Mike is an engineer, and he said, no, we can't. We have already so many lawsuits. He had his lawyer call me. He said, we have so many lawsuits around the world of people who have betrayed his trust. I said, I don't want to add to that, but the lawyer was a fantastic.
You were there. So you felt it. You were there.
Absolutely. And I was happy to play with Elvin and McCoy, Farrell, of course, and Robbie, and Rashid.
And Rashid. No, I mean so many. I mean, it just.
All of us loved each other, and we were on a mission, man, to keep the music where it was supposed to be. And a parting note relative to McCoy, he says, this is what he said, and I don't know what the meaning is. This is kind of like a Cohen of sorts. He said, Tisziji, I've already done this once before.
Past life.
He says, I've already done this once before.
Yeah.
He did it with Train. He couldn't do it again. And I said, thank you for what you did before, because it made our playing perfect. Immaculate. I think the word would have been immaculate. And so, in any case, any other questions?
No, Tisziji, you just want to say a couple things.
Please.
You are a very important person, spirit here in this time and beyond for so many people, and you just have to realize as well that the ripple effect of your inspiration and knowledge, vibration, is going to have a trickle-down effect for so many other people, and you're very needed at this time in many different ways. And so even though maybe it's not in your true nature to be prolific or showy or in sort of but I just encourage you to. I
want to add right there, because you just brought this thought to me.
Yep.
Kalam is in charge of some of my recordings. He's going to be releasing these other recordings over time, because I'm done with the recordings here for now.
Yes.
And so he's helping out. He's extending my work on his own dime, let's say, out of his love for this music and love for me as teacher. And so we have profound respect for him. So the music will continue. He has a few more, maybe 5 or 6, maybe a little bit more than that, records to release. And so I'm going to make sure you get the record first. If anybody gets it first, you should get the record.
Well, I take anything, but I just want to say don't close any doors to any other opportunity, because the vibration that you put off and collectively with the unit into the world is unquantifiable, Tisziji. And what my show has become is in direct relation to everything that you stand for spiritually, and I can't really explain it. So, like McCoy said, I've done this before. and I thank you from the bottom of my heart. And I really just want you to continue to be a prolific, wise elder as we move forward in this time. No matter where you're at, what town, what sphere, wherever you're at, your contributions are more important than ever. Don't ever close any door.
I love you and the people.
Shoo.
Phew.
Thank you, Tisziji. Love you always.